The battlefield was silent except for the slow, dying groan of a crippled coalition destroyer drifting between two jagged asteroid clusters. Superheated gas vented from its ruptured hull, curling into space like pale smoke against the stars. Beyond it, the Black Armada waited. Their cruisers loomed in an executioner's half-circle, jagged silhouettes of black alloy that drank in starlight, their sharp crimson running lights the only color in that frozen graveyard. The UCS Resolute dropped from FTL 3 hours after the distress beacon had gone out. Its arrival sent a ripple of fury through coalition comms. "Human vessel, you are unforgivably late. Your dereliction has cost us lives." The voices were from half a dozen alien captains, sibilant Vralketh swarm commanders, gravel-voiced Delari naval officers, spitting accusations in a dozen dialects. On the Resolute's bridge, Commander Rourke Hayes didn't even flinch. He stood at the forward rail, watching the red-lit enemy line with the calm of a man measuring distance, not time. "We arrive on time," he said flatly, "when we decide the time." At his order, the Resolute's active targeting systems powered down. Warning glyphs flickered across Allied displays. To the coalition fleet, it looked like the humans were lowering their shields and surrendering. But below decks, in the dim glow of the fire control pit, the weapons crew was already keying in silent overrides. Long-range missiles were having their guidance reprogrammed, set to weave through the asteroid shadows like drifting debris until they were close enough to strike. Hayes didn't look at his crew. He kept his eyes on the enemy blockade and smiled faintly. The fight would start when humans said so. The UCS Resolute was no beauty. She was old steel dressed in newer plating, her hull scored with burn marks from a dozen skirmishes. Built for endurance rather than speed, she was a ship meant to survive punishment, not win races. Hayes preferred it that way. Pretty ships got too much attention. The Resolute got results. Lieutenant Elena Serrano stood at the weapons console. Her dark hair pulled into a no-nonsense braid, her tone dry as vacuum. 3 hours late, and we still get the front row, she muttered, fingers dancing over fire control readouts. "You sure you don't want to just wave at them, Commander?" Hayes ignored her bait. He'd learned long ago that Serrano's sarcasm was as reliable as her aim. Off to the side, Corpsman Reddix loomed over a medical diagnostics station. The Korathi medic's chitinous plates flexed in agitation, his secondary eyes blinking in rapid sequence. "Your recklessness is illogical," Reddix rasped, his voice like stone grinding on stone. "Coalition allies will see this delay as proof humans cannot be trusted." Hayes only shrugged. "They already think that. I'm just confirming the legend." Beyond the Resolute, the Coalition fleet spread across the sector. Insectoid Vralketh swarmborne destroyers bristled with drone bays, ready to flood the battle space in a tide of living and mechanical bodies. The sleek amphibian Delari Naval Guard ships floated in perfect formations, their curved hulls shimmering with aqua light. Each species fought by instinct. Vralketh swarmed, Delari obeyed doctrine. Humans? Hayes believed in controlled chaos. The comms officer broke the tension. "High Command transmission, Priority 1. The hollow flared to life with the pale, translucent glyphs of Coalition authority. The order was clear: interdict the Black Armada flagship, the Nightfall Sovereign. It was anchored in the Kryn debris belt, a lawless stretch of shattered moons and mining wrecks, but still a neutral zone. Coalition law forbade firing the first shot there. The Armada knew it, and they were waiting. Hayes listened in silence as a Delari admiral insisted they proceed under full diplomatic procedure. The Vralketh chittered with impatience, demanding they swarm and crush the pirates immediately. Then the message hit his private console. A short, untraceable burst, origin unknown. "Arrive late. Watch who fires first." His gaze narrowed. This wasn't random. Someone wanted him to see something, or someone wanted him to stall. The Vralketh commander appeared on the main comm display, mandibles clicking in contempt. Human, your hesitation is a transparent ploy to gain advantage for your kind. We will remember your cowardice. Hayes leaned against the rail, his expression unreadable. You'll remember a lot more than that before this is over. He closed the comm link and turned to Serrano. Adjust our jump coordinates. 10 minutes longer than projected. Reddix's secondary eyes all blinked at once. That will make us later. Hayes gave a slow, humorless smile. If we're late, we're unexpected. And if we're unexpected, he tapped the side of his head. That's how humans hunt. The Resolute slid out of FTL into the Kryn debris belt like a shark, slipping into a school of fish. Asteroids the size of cities drifted on slow, lazy arcs, each tumbling shadow hiding craters, jagged ice, and in some cases, the skeletal ribs of old mining stations. The belt felt alive, each rock a predator circling the void. The Black Armada waited in the heart of it. Their ships floated with hull lights dimmed, no shields raised. Crews in pressure suits walked openly along outer plating, repairing seams and tightening hull fixtures as if daring the coalition to fire. It was a silent taunt, we know the rules and you can't touch us first. Coalition vessels fanned out. The sleek Delari frigates glided into textbook formation, holding perfect lines. The insectoid Vralketh swarm craft, impatient by nature, surged forward before the order was given. Hayes muttered under his breath, "They're going to regret that." A shimmer rippled in the darkness. Suddenly, flashes of light erupted along the Vralketh advance line. Hidden ships decloaked on the flanks, smaller, fast-attack craft firing plasma bursts at point-blank range. The swarm ships scattered, chittering over open comms in alarm. Hayes turned to LT. "Serrano, switch us to passive echo mapping." She raised an eyebrow. "You want sonar in space?" "Not sonar, ghost imaging. The debris belt will bounce our scans for us. Let the rocks do the talking." Within seconds, ghostly silhouettes appeared on the tactical display. One of them, a massive, jagged outline, sat motionless, tucked against an asteroid that matched its profile almost perfectly. "That's no rock," Serrano said. Hayes leaned forward. "Disguised cruiser, target lock, but no active ping." He keyed the helm. "Line us up with the belt's drift path. We're going to slingshot." The Resolute adjusted her vector, letting the gravitational pull of two massive asteroids stretch their trajectory. In the fire control pit, missiles were armed, not locked, just drifting. At the right moment, thrusters gave them the smallest push, sending them tumbling forward like harmless debris. No alarms, no targeting warnings. The hidden cruiser's shields didn't even flicker until the first missile hit amidships, followed by a chain of explosions that tore a molten gash through its spine. The ship broke in two, pieces spinning away into the black. The coalition, comms, lit up with both praise and outrage. "Human vessel, explain your action. This is an unlawful strike in a neutral zone. You've endangered our political position." Hayes cut the channel. He wasn't in the mood for politics. Corpsman Reddix moved closer, his mandibles clicking with unease. "You realize every species here now fears you will make them complicit in breaking treaty law." Hayes didn't look away from the viewport. "Fear, a good start." The moment hung, until a flash tore across the darkness. The Resolute shuddered violently, claxons wailing as the forward comm array burst in a spray of molten fragments. A railgun slug the size of a tree trunk had missed the bridge by only meters, its trail still glowing in the void. Serrano swore. "They just drew first blood." Hayes's grin was thin and dangerous. "Good." He straightened, voice hard as steel. "They know we're here now." The battle had slowed to a wary drift, each side holding its position among the shifting asteroids. But on the Resolute's bridge, LT, Serrano was hunched over her console, brow furrowed. "I've got something," she murmured. "Scrambled packet, tight beam between two Armada ships. I almost missed it under their comms noise." Hayes stepped in close. Serrano ran the feed through 3 layers of decryption before the audio spilled into the air, rough, clipped, and unmistakably human. The dialect was Outer Rim, a guttural blend of Terran trade slang and old naval jargon. Reddix's mandibles twitched. "Humans out here." Serrano kept scrolling the transcript. "Not just humans, ex-Navy by the phrasing, and listen to this, funding drops. Direct transfers routed through shell accounts tied to Earth corporate boards." Hayes's expression didn't change, but his grip tightened on the rail. Rogue Earth corporations bankrolling pirates to destabilize coalition lanes, that was the kind of truth that could topple governments. The calm burst to life again, this time from coalition high command. All human vessels are to stand down immediately pending investigation. You are to disengage and withdraw to designated holding coordinates. On the main display, coalition ships were already pulling back, their formations widening. Serrano looked at him. "If we back off now, they'll vanish into the belt." "They won't just vanish," Hayes said quietly. "They'll make sure the galaxy knows humans funded this, and they'll be right." Reddix's voice dropped to a warning rumble. "If you defy the order, the political blame will fall entirely on your species." Hayes considered that for all of 2 seconds. Then he straightened. "So we won't defy it?" Serrano blinked. "You just said." "We won't defy it officially." He tapped the tactical display, highlighting a maintenance bay on the Resolute's underside. "Prep Shuttle 3, no transponder, no registry markings." It took them minutes to outfit the boarding team. 4 humans, 2 Delari volunteers who'd fought beside Hayes before, and Reddix with his med kit slung over one shoulder. The Resolute eased its course, looking for all the world like it was pulling back with the others. But in her shadow, Shuttle 3 detached silently, engines cold, letting the belt's drifting mass carry it toward a rusted mining platform. Inside the cramped shuttle bay, Serrano checked the mag clamps on her rifle. Reddix tightened the seals on his armor. Hayes stood at the hatch, eyes on the viewport. The Nightfall Sovereign was a black wound against the starlight, its course taking it dangerously close to the platform. "When she passes," Hayes said, "we latch on. No comms, no lights, no second chances." Reddix regarded him with all 6 eyes. "And if the rules forbid this?" Hayes smiled without humor. "We write the rules when the old ones don't work." The Nightfall Sovereign drifted past the mining platform like a great black predator, her engines running low and silent. Hayes gave the signal. The shuttle's hatch cycled open, and the boarding team stepped into the void, magboots clamping hard against the flagship's outer hull. The only sound was their own breathing through suit comms as they moved hand over hand along the cold plating, following the seams of maintenance panels. Serrano's cutter flared, a thin jet of blue-white plasma, and the panel came free with a hiss of escaping air. One by one, they slipped inside. The corridors were narrow, lit by intermittent crimson strobes that painted the walls in a pulsing blood light. The air smelled of overheated circuitry, recycled breath, and something acrid, burned coolant maybe. Shadows seemed to shift with every flash. They moved fast, rifles up. The first contact came at a junction, Armada crew in scavenged armor, weapons already raised. The firefight erupted in the confined space, shots ricocheting off bulkheads. Humans fought dirty, bouncing rounds off angled walls, using improvised grenades cobbled from demolition charges and coolant canisters. A plasma burst seared past Hayes's shoulder, melting part of the wall. Reddix shoved him aside, firing his own compact scattergun in a wide, concussive burst. 2 attackers dropped, the 3rd fled. By the time they reached the command deck, the smell of scorched metal and burned insulation clung to their armor. The Armada captain was waiting, tall, broad, his face a map of old battle scars. His voice carried the clipped cadence of Earth-Navy training. "Rourke Hayes," he said, almost amused. "Didn't think you'd have the nerve to come aboard." "You're selling coalition fleet movements," Hayes replied, stepping forward, rifle steady. Not just to one side, everyone with the credits, even Earth interests. The captain smiled thinly. War's just another market. I sell to whoever pays, even your own kind. Hayes's eyes narrowed. Thanks for saying that on record. He tapped a control on his wrist pad. A live feed transmitted the confession straight to Coalition secure nets before cutting off. Somewhere out there, admirals and politicians were already choking on their coffee. Outside the hull, the Resolute made her move. She'd been drifting, pretending to limp away with the rest of the fleet. At the last moment, her thrusters flared hard, pivoting her broadside into firing position. Point defense cannons from a nearby Armada cruiser lit up the void, but too late. The Resolute's main guns spat fire, punching clean through the enemy's midsection. The cruiser's reactor flared and went dark. Back on the command deck, the captain lunged. Hayes sidestepped, slammed his rifle butt into the man's jaw, and dropped him with a second blow. Serrano set charges on the bridge's control consoles. "Time to go," she said. They fought their way back to the breach point, Reddix taking a plasma bolt to the shoulder. He grunted but kept moving. When they emerged onto the hull, the Resolute was already swinging in, battered and trailing smoke from her own aft section. The engines were half crippled, plating blackened from return fire. They clamped onto the shuttle's airlock, the ship's artificial gravity rushing to meet them as they stumbled inside. Through the viewport, the Nightfall Sovereign burned, her hull breached in multiple places, drifting powerless among the asteroids. Hayes watched her fade into the dark. "Burn the rules," he muttered. "We just wrote a better one." The debrief was held over a secure HoloLink Coalition insignia, rotating above the table like a judge's gavel. On the record, the admirals called the operation a decisive blow against piracy, and commended the Resolute's crew for rapid, adaptive tactics in an evolving threat environment. Off the record, the tone changed. "Commander Hayes," the Delari admiral's voice was as cold as the rift, "your disregard for engagement protocols has placed every human vessel under suspicion. You are under formal review." Hayes didn't bother arguing. Reviews came and went. The truth was already out in the networks. He'd made sure of that. Back aboard the Resolute, the mood was lighter. The Vralketh commander sent over a small obsidian box. Inside lay a warrior's fang, polished to a mirror sheen. In swarm culture, it was given only to enemies who had earned permanent respect. Serrano placed it on the ship's command console without a word. Reddix was propped up in medbay, his wound sealed with synth flesh. His mandibles clicked in dry amusement. "Only humans," he said, "would win a battle by showing up late." Hayes allowed himself the smallest smile. "Late's just another word for ready." 3 days later, as the Resolute limped through repair docks, Hayes's private console pinged. The encryption was the same as before, untraceable, urgent. "Your next target is in the Veil Rift. Don't be early." He leaned back, studying the swirling coordinates. The Veil Rift was a graveyard of fleets, a place even the bravest captains plotted wide around. Hours later, the Resolute eased away from the docks, her hull patched but still scarred. She drifted toward the dark mouth of the rift, the stars beyond flickering with distant black silhouettes just barely moving. Hayes watched them from the bridge, his voice low enough for only himself to hear. "Let's see who's late this time."